Today we're going to talk about AAU teams, youth basketball playing zone, and how this could be a good thing. Can this hurt development? Can it hurt recruitment? And then kind of how coaches view zone being played at AAU tournaments. Okay, I believe traditionally that in order to play an effective zone, I think that you need to have a man-to-man principle behind each zone for you to be effective. Unless it's something that you do that's your identity. Jim Boeheim made a living on 3-2 zone, did a really great job, won a national championship. So it's a lot of other guys playing zone. Bill Evans from Idaho State, he's at Utah State Eastern. He has one of the most difficult zones that I've ever seen. You have, Tark with the amoeba at UNLV. So it's a lot of different ways that people have won championships playing zone. That is not just necessarily a bad thing. Is really, like I always say, it's not one way to skin a cat. It's really who buys into it. But this is what I believe with youth sports. I think you got to teach man-to-man principles, ball me man, and teach that part of the man-to-man defense and make sure that they know how to rotate and things like that. And I think you can have an effective zone. I think you just throw them in a zone. That's a really lazy way to play, but I'll elaborate more on that as we go forward. Okay. Here are some points why I think this is good. Zone is good for pressing. When you go into a press, it's really easy to get into a zone press, and then you can back up your coverage and get into another, whether it's another zone or whether it's the same zone, or you can get into man-to-man. It's a really, you can cover a lot of ground, cover a lot of space, especially if you're really athletic, and you can wreak havoc, you know what I mean? Because everybody knows what their spot, and if it's taught right, it's a thing of beauty. So I think that is one good thing about zone. Zone is a good tactic whenever you're playing against people who cannot shoot. You just kind of want to pack the paint in. You want to make sure that they can't get into the paint and score easy baskets, so you're going to force them to shoot jumpers. I think that's a great tactic as far as coaching, and I think that is really good use, in youth sports, because a lot of the kids can't shoot. You know what I mean? But like I said, if you teach those man-to-man principles, I don't see anything wrong with zone. I think that it has long-term effects. When you just play zone and you just throw kids into a zone and you don't ever teach them man-to-man. Zone, and the last thing, zone is good if that's your philosophy as a coach. Like I said, it's not one way to skin a cat. You're going to hear me say it all the time. Nobody is a guru of basketball, right? There's some guys that really know basketball. They know basketball really well. But at the end of the day, if you find guys that's going to buy into your philosophy, I think that you can win. If you find good guys that care about the team, I think that you can win. But then again, it has to be the philosophy that whatever coach is running, that if a coach is running zone and that's what he believes in, then he or she believes in, if that's what he or she believes in, then that's going to work. You know what I mean? As long as they get people on their team that's going to buy into that philosophy, and coaching staff is going to buy into that philosophy. So I think that it's good. It's good things to it. I just have a prerequisite before you start playing zone. Can it hurt a kid's development? Yes. When principles of defense is not being taught correctly, it can hurt their development, because if you just like, well, I don't want to teach man-to-man because I feel like for the kids it's too confusing or it's too hard for them to understand the concepts, and you just kind of quit on it and throw them into a zone, then yes, it can hurt their development. I think that any small ball coach or any young coach should be teaching shell defense from a very young age, because you have to teach just kind of taking pride on defense. Like I said, I think zone is a lazy way to play. Being able to have man-to-man defense in your arsenal as a player is extremely important for you to be the best player that you can be. Because if you can't guard one-on-one and you get on that island and you can't guard, you get exposed really quickly. And if coaches feel like they're going to keep giving up buckets with you being in the game, then you're probably not going to have an opportunity to play after high school. And you might not even have a chance to play in high school. You know what I mean? If you don't figure this out. So I think that man-to-man defense is really important to your development. I think it's important. It needs to be taught, because you got to be able to guard your person, the whole entire time. One-on-one, you got to have good one-on-one defense. That's really what I'm trying to say. Third point is, I don't think that kids should primarily play zone in AAU, because I think AAU should be about development and less about wins and losses, especially when they're younger, right? You're trying to teach them the game. So like, who cares if your 8-year-old team has won every tournament that they played in? You know what I mean? If they won every tournament that they played in, then play 9U, right? Then play 10U. Play them against people that challenges them and helps them get better. That's what AAU and travel ball should be about. Like I said, we've made it about some different stuff as a culture, but that's what I believe it should be about. It shouldn't be about you getting the most wins that you can get at 8U, and your 8U team is the best 8U team in the country, but then you won't go play 9U. That's what I mean by running from smoke. I'm gonna take my 8U team because we smacking all the 8-year-olds, and we're gonna go play 9-year-olds, and we're gonna go play 10-year-olds, play 10U, so that I can challenge my guys to get better. That's gonna help them. That's gonna help you as a coach. It's a lot of good benefits for doing that. Yes, you won't win every game, but at the end of the day, you learn from losing. And I just believe that helps the kids get better because it actually gets into their mind that, man, I got to continue to keep getting better. When you win all the time and you have success all the time, it makes you lazy sometimes to really try to go accomplish goals. When you lose, that's what really you hear. I mean, excuse me, not hear. You get to see a different side of things. So I think that's needed. Can play in zone hurt a kid's recruitment? Simple answer is yes and no. Okay, the yes could hurt the recruitment if they don't know how to guard. Like I said, they get on that island, they don't know how to play defense, and they don't know how to guard. Yes, it could hurt their recruitment because you depend more on your offense than your defense because you can't play defense. You understand? So if I'm depending more on my offense, and that's the one thing that's the easiest thing to go because it's hard to sustain. Right? It's hard for offense to sustain. If you shoot a lot of shots up at the rim, I think you will make one. But it's hard to sustain offense on a consistent basis. It's not hard to sustain defense on a consistent basis. It's all about want to and whether you really want to guard somebody. So when you don't guard and you are a liability on defense, then you rely heavily on your offense to get a scholarship to play. And I don't think that as a basketball player, that's a really great place to play. There's a lot of coaches that if you can guard, you're going to have an opportunity to play. You do have to do other stuff. You do have to score. You can't be a liability on offense either. But I think that if you feel like you can get a stop, you're always going to have a spot on somebody's team. And whether that's the level that you think you should be at, hey, that's to each his own, right? That's a subjective argument. The no is because programs that play zone exclusively, like the Syracuse's, Jim Boeheim, they are looking at guys that play zone, even guys that play man-to-man, right? They're looking for people to fit into their style of play. And that is going to help kids that is doing that. But then again, it's not every team in the country playing zone. So your chances are slim to play on certain teams. But then again, like if you do something really well, you still have an opportunity to play. There's no right or wrong answer to this. I just think that if you have man-to-man principles, you can play any defense that is thrown at you. If you're used to playing man-to-man and you go play for a team that's playing all zone, I think that you'll have an easy adjustment. If you're a zone person and you go to play for a man-to-man team, I think your adjustment is bigger. Especially if you don't have the man-to-man foundation behind you. So that's my belief. I think zone is a good thing in certain situations. I wouldn't exclusively play zone, but that's my philosophy. Like I said, it's teach his own. It's based on the coach. It's based on what he believes in, what he's been taught. You know what I mean? I've been taught by a man-to-man defense guy. I believe in man-to-man. I've seen it help us win championships. So that's what I'm bought into. I think that's really important to the game. So how coaches view zone. It will always leave questions on how well you can guard, right? So if I'm watching you playing zone, and even if you're a good player, I'm always going to be like, man, can he guard? What positions can he guard, right? Because you are what you can guard. A lot of people are like, well, I'm a 6'9" point guard, but then you can't guard a 5'9" point guard. So you're not a point guard, right? You can make all the plays, but you're not a point guard if you can't guard that position. You are what you can guard. And so we always will have questions if you're playing zone. Can he guard? Is he good enough to guard? Can he move his feet? You can see some of that in zone, but a lot of the times they stick you in the zone and you just kind of play lazy. You really don't play as hard as you would man-to-man in the zone. And that's just habitually you see. Some people do. I can't speak for everybody, but most people don't. And that's just the truth in what you see. Part A, you will not get a lot of minutes because you aren't trusted. So if you don't play defense, these are the things that can happen, right? You won't play a lot of minutes because you can't be trusted to play defense. And like I told you before, you are a liability defensively. You will not play at all because somebody will be on your team that can actually guard and they can play offense as well. They can do what you can do on offense. So coach is going to go with the guy that guards better than he's going to go with you. So then you end up being in a frustrated spot because you can't guard anybody, right? And so it matters physically how well you can guard, but really it's all about your heart. Like, how hard are you going to play? You don't have to be the most athletic guy to guard and play hard on defense, right? A lot of people don't take value in defense anymore because everybody wants to score. But, man, if you're going to be a really big-time player, you got to be able to play both ends of the floor. And that's just what I believe, okay? It is a fun thing to hold people under their scoring average, to make things tough for them defensively. And that's where the team aspect comes in when you playing team man-to-man defense or even zone defense, and you kind of like shrink the basket. So I think that's a really fun thing. I think that people got to have more. Yeah, they don't talk about you in the newspaper. They don't talk about you on TV for playing defense. They don't. But it's a fun thing to do when man, that dude averaging 25, he had 12 versus me, right? And that's the pride that you have to take, that I think is taught at a young age, playing one-on-one defense. That's the pride you have to have when you're doing that. So in conclusion, like I said, there's not one way to skin a cat. Those are my thoughts on it. I'm never going to take one side when it comes to basketball most of the time, because it's so many people have won so many different ways, right? The only thing that I think are non-negotiables is playing hard, playing as a team, being unselfish. I think those things have to be on any championship team in order for you to have an opportunity to win. So I think that is non-negotiable. But as far as like your philosophy on whether they should zone, man-to-man, things like that, I'm never going to take one side, because there's so many different ways to skin a cat. There's so many ways you can learn how to play this game. I learn something new about basketball every day. And so, I think that that's important. So, guys, I would challenge you, if you are playing on a team that's zone heavy, I would really, really play a lot of one-on-one, so I know I can guard one-on-one. And then I'll be able to showcase that in the right space. But as always, like I said, I love the community. As always, man, I love you guys. I really want to help as much as I can, and do what's best for the community. Try to help as many kids as I can. Try to influence as many kids as I can to play the game the right way, so that we can try to get our culture back intact, to playing basketball and watching good basketball, and also playing good basketball. So, like I said, man, hey, to each his own. You want to play zone? It's good. I just think if you're going to play zone, make sure you have man-to-man principles. That's my philosophy on it. That's my thoughts on it. Hopefully that helps. Some people are not going to agree. I understand. I'm okay with that, but like I said, basketball is all about our perspective. And your perspective matters to me, just like I hope my perspective matters to you. So be great today.